I just filmed this intro without pressing record. Hi, welcome to today's video. Today we are getting ready to embark on something of a challenge. I've decided to set myself an 8-week sewing challenge, and this is the planning stage, the organization before we get into it. We're going to crack into my project notebook and see what I've got planned and get everything ready to make this as winnable and successful as possible. I guess I should start with my history with sewing. As a kid, I played with my mum's sewing machine. She'd hem pants, and whatever she cut off the bottom, I would stitch together and make a headband with, and I always really enjoyed it. The act of creation or transformation, turning something into something else, was always really fun to me. During the pandemic, I picked it back up. I found some of my mum's old fabric and pulled out her sewing machine and just had the best time. I started trying to sew clothes. I was basically completely unsuccessful until I wasn't. And I think that's how it goes for all skill development. You're just kind of really bad at it until you're not. And so I started making things that I could actually wear, and I bought myself a machine and more fabric than is reasonable, which takes us to why I'm doing this. Why a sewing challenge? Why not just sew like a normal person? Well, I have commitment and focus issues, so I need to gamify everything. This has to be a challenge. I can't just spend the next 8 weeks sewing a bit. No, it is a challenge and I have to win. The reason for the challenge is twofold, essentially. One, I've been really anxious lately. I've not been doing super great, and I'm kind of making it worse for myself because I get anxious, and instead of like doing anything about it, I do just go onto my phone and doom scroll. Sometimes that's what I need to do. I need to distract myself by watching a bunch of TikToks. But the thing is, the algorithm has just been really bad lately and is showing me stuff that I don't want to see. I'm not entertained by it. I'm not learning anything from it. It's not fun. I'm having a bad time. And so I want to spend a lot of the time that I would spend just kind of blankly staring at my phone trying to feel something, sewing. The second reason, however, is that looming fabric stash. I store my fabric on a bookshelf and it is like bulging out right now. I need to use up as much as I can. So, 8-week sewing challenge, what does that mean? What is the goal here? Well, for me, the goal is to sew 10 wearable garments. I know for some people, the idea of sewing 10 things in 8 weeks is laughable. People do that in much less time. I don't. I'm the kind of person who will cut out the paper pattern and then put it down for a few weeks. And then I'll cut out my fabric and then I'll put it down for months and then I'll get part of it sewn together. Basically, I am not a quick sewer. This is a way to encourage myself to break the habit of leaving unfinished projects behind and to encourage me to finish what I start while kind of taking care of my mental health and getting through the hoard of fabric that I own. So I think it's time to crack in and see what I have planned. I do have a tentative list of projects. I kind of went through my fabric, pulled out what I wanted to use, and have made a list. However, it has already slightly changed. These are in no particular order. They're just listed 1 to 10 because I wrote them as a list. But the first project I want to work on is a yellow wrap pajama skirt. I am going to read them out exactly how I wrote them because I think it's funny that a lot of them read as like Temu listings and I think that is laughable. But I think the cool thing about sewing is that you can find a gap in your wardrobe or like a need in your life and fill it however you want. And one of those concerns for me is honestly very silly and is going to make me sound insanely lazy. But sometimes I get snuggled into bed for the night. I typically go to bed or get into bed quite early. Sometimes you need to get up and like get some water or something. And I do live in a house with other people, so walking around in very little clothing is not ideal. And I can hear you saying that's what a robe is for, or like some pants. I hear you, but I kept thinking every time, like, I wish I could just wrap something around my waist. Like, I just want to be able to like, wrap a towel around myself. And it clicked. Wrap skirt. So I bought some flannel that looks like it can be nothing but pajamas. and I'm going to make a pajama wrap skirt because that is a normal thing to want and make. Next is an orange winter skirt with zip. I bought a lovely fabric. I think it's very pretty. And I honestly settled on that project because I thought, great, I don't need to buy anything else for it, because I had a fabric that I wanted to use for the lining, and then I realized that it doesn't make sense to use that. It should be black, not cream, and so I did go and buy some more. Of course. I knew I had to go to the fabric store because I needed like elastic and things, and I needed some linings for a few of the other projects, but I put it off. I wasn't actually sure if I was going to be able to start this when I wanted to, because the price of broadcloth has gone up. I mean, the price of everything has gone up. When I started sewing a few years ago, it was $6 a meter. Then it went up to $8, which I could understand. Everything was going up at that point. Then it went up to 10, and now it's 12. It is double what it was a few years ago, and that feels insane to me, and I didn't want to spend $12 a meter. So I was just gonna wait till there was a sale, and then there was a flash sale, so I got what I needed, and everything's good. This is gonna be probably a half circle skirt. Once I've got the fabric out, I'll kind of measure and see what I can fit, but I do think a half circle skirt is what it's going to end up being. The next project on the list is one that I have been wanting to work on for ages. I've had this fabric for a very long time, but I've realized that I don't really know what I'm doing. I haven't been able to find a pattern for what I want to do, which does make everything a lot harder. But I want to make like a winter dress, like a long winter dress. It's written as flannel winter dress long. Next reads corduroy pinafore detachable ? And that will be out of this green corduroy that I've had for a while. I actually thought I used it. I went to get dressed one day and thought, perfect day for my corduroy pinafore. That doesn't exist. So that's on me. This fabric has been in my stash for a really long time, but I've been going back and forth whether to make a skirt or a pinafore, which is where detachable comes in, but I really don't know how that would go. Next is a cropped boxy 80s shirt. This is some fabric that was in my mum's stash for a really long time that she's never going to use, so she gave to me. It just feels like a bus seat or a cinema carpet, and so that's where the 80s comes from, I guess, and I just can picture like a boxy button-up kind of cropped shirt. That's what I want. Next is elderberry dress light linen, and then in brackets removable puff sleeves ? The elderberry dress is a pattern from Mood, and I've made it before and I kind of like it. I've always made a few alterations and sometimes that doesn't work out, but I've had this linen cotton blend fabric for a while that I want to use, so I'm gonna make that. And then I was thinking about putting sleeves on it. I probably won't do sleeves because just like thinking about the shape of the dress, I feel like it would look a bit strange. Next is blue and green plaid skirt. I think it's probably going to end up being a very basic like rectangle skirt because there's not much fabric. It was a remnant, but it is like my favorite colorway of flannel, so I bought it. I would love to be able to get like at least a half circle skirt out of it because I love that shape of skirt so much more, but it will be really short if I do that, so I don't know. Next is gingham cape with purple lining. I didn't actually want to put purple lining, but the fabric I wanted to use has been cut from and probably isn't big enough. But I bought this quite heavy fabric. I don't even know really what it is. And I realized that like it's not something I would wear as a dress or a skirt or anything like that. And so a cape would work well. I do mean cape as like a jacket kind of cape, not like a costume cape. I have one of those. I made one once for a Halloween event out of a stretch suiting fabric, which I do not recommend. Next reads red blue loose home day dress with elastic waist. I mean, I know exactly what I was going for, but that sure is a way to say it. I thrifted a bit of fabric a while ago and it's not really my taste, that's the thing. It's before I was like a little more choosy with what I bought, but I think just a really casual dress to wear at home would work. I was actually thinking about like keeping it as a rectangle, cutting a head hole and just kind of stitching it and then putting elastic in would work, but I think that shape would annoy me too much, so I'll have to do a little more thinking on that. And lastly, number 10 may not count as a garment, but it does count for my purposes, and that is orange tie-on pockets. I have been obsessed with the idea of tie-on pockets since I learnt about them, and I do have a project in my head for the future of embroidered pockets, but before I get working on that, I want to make sure I can like actually make the pockets. So I'm gonna do kind of a trial run, and then I can use these orange ones a little more freely without worrying about ruining all the hard work of embroidery. I did add an extra project at the bottom just in case I don't want to work on any of those, and that is just a white collared shirt because I don't really own one of those. Well, I do. I made an 18th century men's shirt. I was working on it for like 3 years. I decided I wanted to hand sew all of it, and I just finished it up the other week, but I made like a huge mistake in it, and so it's not like super wearable, but it passes for my purposes, but I'd like to make like a proper one. But yes, those are my planned projects. I'm really hoping to get to all of them. 10 garments in 8 weeks should be doable. There are a few projects that I think might be a little easy, others that I honestly have no idea how I'm going to pull off. I have some patterns ready for some, and I'm just gonna kind of make it up for others. But I'm really excited about this. I really do work best when I like give myself a set goal. And so the goal of a certain amount of projects finished in a certain amount of time is much more productive for me than sew more. So yes, so I am going to be vlogging the next 8 weeks of this project. I think it'll end up being split into 2 videos. It depends how much I film, I guess. But I'm gonna go stop sitting here talking about it and get sewing. If you'd like to see those future videos, the actual challenge happening, you can subscribe. I upload every week. You can like this video. Let me know which of these projects you are most interested in seeing. I think I might be most excited about the pinafore just because it's something I've wanted to wear so many times. But with that said, I'm gonna go and I will see you next time. Bye.